This is Let's Talk Teens, a parenting podcast sharing tips on raising amazing teenagers. We are both certified life coaches that have worked with teenagers as coaches, mentors, and teachers. We are sharing what we have found to work best when dealing with teens and tough issues. This is Abbi and Cheree, Let's Talk Teens, episode 45, Red Flags to Look For in a Teen Dating Relationship.
This is such a good one that I think every parent needs, every teen needs, right? Is to look for those red flags because they're brand new relationships. They're just learning how to do them. And a lot of times they don't know what is healthy and what is not. And so, as a parent, how great is it for us to kind of have that discussion with them and talk to them about what could go right in dating? I think it's always good to start with what could go right and then what could go wrong and what to watch for. What are those green flags? What are those red flags? So let's jump into that and see if we can give you, if Abbi and I can give you a few ideas, parents, of how you can help them and just kind of the things to maybe focus on as you have this discussion with them. And first of all, I just think it's important to have those discussions with your teens about dating. Really find a time that works that we can say, okay, what is dating like, and what are some things that, like I said, we want to look for, and what do we want to watch out for? And I think those conversations are really important.
And I think helping your teen figure out like the goal of dating as a teenager. And I mean, I don't know about you, Cheree. When I was a teenager, I was like looking for my true love. I think like that's just kind of inevitable. But also just laying the groundwork of like, listen, when you're dating as a teenager, you are not looking for your true love. You're looking for what do I like in a person, right? What do I like in a friend? What do I like in a companion? What types of things do I like to do, right? And so I kind of wish as a teenager I had more of that mindset. I'm just a hopeless romantic, Cheree. It's like in me. But I think that would be such a great thing as well to talk to your teen about of listen, the goal of dating right now as a teen is to have fun, to meet people, and to figure out, okay, I really like this in a person that I'm dating or I think is really cute. Or guess what? I really don't like this in a person that I'm hanging out with.
And I would just add to that part of high school relationships or teen relationships is practicing doing relationships, right? This is a good time to practice before you are in that looking for a spouse. So I think that just practicing is another one to add to that. So good. Okay, so some things to kind of look out, talk to your teen about is, and I love, first of all, I just want to say, I think it's always so important to ask our teen, start out with asking them, what do you think are green flags? What do you think are red flags? Like get some feedback from them, involve them in that conversation, not you just talking at them. Like they might already have a good idea, and it would be really good to see where they're at with that. Now, if they come up with some great things, just go with that discussion and add to it. Here's some if they don't come up that you could talk about is, a red flag to look for would be something like their significant other that they're dating guilts them when they want to hang out with their friends and their family. Just kind of consumes their time and like, no, what, you don't have time for me. Oh, you always put those people first, or, just kind of makes them feel bad for spending time with other people. They really want to monopolize their time.
And there really is a difference between like, oh, I like being with you so much. Like, I'm going to miss you on Saturday night because you're hanging out with your families and being like, oh, your family, they just take all your time. And don't you feel like your parents, this or this, right? And so I do think, explaining that to your teen of you should miss each other. Totally. I mean, you like each other. But if there's guilt or like, oh, I can tell they're so mad at me or they're kind of snippy with me after I've hung out with other people, that is something to kind of notice.
And to go along with that, I think another thing to add to that red flag is how they talk about your family. And if, like, are they positive about your family? Do they point out all the negative things about your family? Do they avoid going with your family, or do they want to hang out with your family? I think it's so important in those teen years to spend time with both sides of the family, not just at one of the, just the boys' family or the girls' family, and then the other family is the enemy. I think we have to kind of watch for that and see how they navigate our family and how they feel about being there and how they talk about our family.
And to add to, another red flag that piggybacks off of that is if your teen is in a relationship where they're like, yeah, his family, like they hate me or I can't go over there. Their mom and dad, they're so against us dating. That should be red flags to us, right? And I get that all parents, have different rules about dating, but if it's really like, oh, I don't like going over there, as a parent, we should help our teen know that's not good, right? That's not normal. And there's lots of reasons our teens can feel like that, but that should be something as well that we bring up.
I think another red flag to really watch for, of course, is when we're they pressure us into something that doesn't align with our values and our standards. When, there's maybe like, oh, you're just being, I don't know, a little ridiculous on that, or this won't hurt, or, why this isn't as big a deal as you're making it. And they pressure you into something that you're not feeling comfortable about. That is a big red flag. And I think that that doesn't happen just like all of a sudden. I think when that happens, it seems to happen by really little small things, really small things they get pressured into it. And then it's the next thing and the next thing and the next thing of just like, oh, it doesn't matter if you're, it might start with like, it doesn't matter if you're 5 minutes late for your curfew. Like, that's not a big deal. You know what? Your mom and dad might get mad at you, but nothing else is going to happen. Like, it's not a big deal. That might be the little thing, right? That those little pressures of like breaking your values and your standards and your trust with your parents and with yourself. And I think just watching for that and how those then usually get bigger over time of convincing like it's okay to do this thing and it's okay to do this thing and it's okay to do this.
And I think if you, on the flip side, as you're counseling with your teen, right? Hopefully at the beginning of their dating journey, maybe we're having a reset in the middle, right? Of having them realize it's really important and it will go so far with the parents of the cute boy or girl that they are dating if you respect their rules. If you are the one that says, "Oh my goodness, let's get you home so you've got plenty of time for curfew." Let's be sure that you as the teenager are following the rules of that other family so that they don't become that red flag. I feel like that's when teens can so easily slip into of starting to pressure, their significant other of like, "Oh, let's just be late for curfew," or you're just such a goody goody on this. And so having your teen reflect inward and say, do I ever do that? Because that's really easy when we all can do.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those conversations to have even, at the beginning when they start dating is, okay, what are some boundaries you're going to create for yourself that are important for you that align with your values and standards? Like the parents ask your teen that. So that they, right off the bat know what their values and standards are and what boundaries they don't want to cross and what boundaries they are not willing to budge on so that if that has ever, you know, tried to be pressured by someone else that they'll be able to say no. I think this one's so interesting. I've had actually a few clients talk about this with me recently, and I think it's when their significant other, the person they're dating, really dictates the time as far as like what time they get to. It's like a control thing of time. So I've had a few girls and specifically say, that they're always expected to be available for the boyfriend when he has time, but his time, if he needs to go hang out with his friends or he needs to go do something else, it's very okay that's where he spends his time, right? But then she's expected to give up everything to be with him.
When
And
he's
I think
free.
that's really something you have to watch out for is that treatment of each other and their time, is it the same or does one person in the relationship get a whole bunch of passes for different things and the other person is expected to hold to a standard? What does that look like? And that has been one that has been brought up a lot lately, and it's interesting how they have been more female clients that have been like, I want to spend time with them, so I've locked out my schedule to do something with them, and then at last minute he has something to do with his friends, and he no longer is going to hang out with me. But that would never go. That would never work on the opposite end of things.
One thing I'm really big on when I talk to teens and counsel them in like dating and all those kind of things is that there's like mutual mutual like adoration and infatuation, and that it's not you just being their second best option, right? Or that you're just the great option for that night to hang out with. And so that's a really hard thing for teens to learn because typically, and this isn't even a teenager thing, but in a relationship, especially in the early stages, one person likes the other person more, right? Is a little bit more infatuated. And that's super normal, but it's really easy to kind of manipulate that, like you're saying. And we don't mean to, but we're like, yeah, I could hang out with Abby if my friend Tommy doesn't get back to me, right? And so you should be a priority to them. In line with like not above family, not above, some of these other commitments, but it's a mutual understanding that we both have a lot of respect for each other, and you're not just like my second best option that I've got available to me.
Absolutely. Because I think that's showing a lot of, whether we as a teen have respect for ourselves, that we respect ourselves enough to be like, hey, that's not okay that you always bail on me at the last minute, and really to have that self-respect to like, even though we might feel desperate for that relationship or want that relationship or really like him and want him to like us back, that we like ourselves enough and respect ourselves enough to be like, that's not going to work. I think that's good. I think just how they treat you, how they talk about you. Are they sarcastic with you? Do they put you down and say like, I'm just teasing? Like how do they treat you? And do they treat you with respect and kindness and just like adoration and kind words behind your back and in front of your back? Or is that missing? Just a little story that is kind of fun about my daughter who's married and she's a mom now. But one of the things that she really admired in her husband, I mean, this was before he was the husband, they were actually both in high school, is she watched how he treated her, but she also watched how he treated his mom. And one of the things that my daughter loved about Stephen right off the bat was how she knows he opened his mom's car door and he would talk really nice to her. And he had sisters and he was always so respectful of the women. And she noticed that before they even started dating. And it was something that she really admired. And I think that goes a long ways in dating is like, how does your girlfriend or your boyfriend treat other people and how do they treat you? What does it sound like when they talk about other people and how and that respect they show them?
I love that. That was actually advice my parents gave me of like the guy you're dating, notice how he treats his mom, because that's how he's going to treat you after you've been in a relationship for a long time. And I think that advice holds up.
I do
And
too.
I was thinking of one last story to wrap us up, Cheree. When my first kind of like love experience in high school was not a really great one. I loved this. Well, love's a strong word. I really, really liked this guy. He was infatuated with me, right? We had such a fun, flirty relationship. And then once we had our first kiss, he ghosted me for 2 weeks and like didn't talk to me again, right? And this is my first real experience with like, I'm old enough to date. This boy likes me, my first kiss, all those kind of things. And so it was interesting that fast forward, even to the next year of school, I'm dating now a new boy. And I just remember thinking, I don't want to kiss him because that's when boys like run away, right? That's when they ghost you. And so we had gone on a date. We did have our first kiss. And I just remember being like, oh, I really like him. And now he's not going to like want to hang out with me. And then it was amazing after that, which is very natural and what should happen. We were even better friends, right? We were even better in that relationship. And I remember going, oh, this is what this is supposed to be like, right? Like I had a poor experience the first time, but for your teenager, if they have a poor experience the first time, right? Maybe they're like me and they get ghosted after they kissed a boy, or maybe their first boyfriend really, wasn't respectful in a lot of ways. That is going to be to them what they think is normal. And it's going to start to frame what they view as normal. So it does take a couple more dating relationships to go, oh, that's not normal to ghost a girl after you kiss her, right? And so I think that's important to help your teen, especially as they have these first relationships, to help them go, okay, normal, not normal.
I think
Okay, not okay.
I think it's so good for them to see that contrast and for parents to point that out. Like that contrast of like, oh, did you notice how, like so my first boyfriend, he wanted to have a relationship, but only like at his house or when we were just doing things just
But not
us,
at school.
not at school, right?
Mm.
Oh, that was like, ooh. anyway, and I wanted that relationship, so I went with for it, right? But then seeing that contrast of relationships afterwards, where they actually ask you to dances or you get to go do things with other people, and they want you to be known as their girlfriend. It was really good for me to see that contrast, right? But I also think it's really great, parents, for you to take that time, that little moment and be like, oh, did you notice this contrast? Or like, did you notice the difference between this and this? You might not use the word contrast, but it really helps the teen see like this is healthy and this is unhealthy. Or how was that experience for you when, he kissed you and left you versus like when he kissed you and he wanted to still be your
Hmm.
boyfriend. And I think just helping your kids see that, because that's how we learn. We learn through contrast. It's not all going to be perfect and it's not going to all be horrible. That learning and growth during these teenage years for dating relationships is so vitally important so that then when they are ready to date for marriage, they're more ready. They've had all the experiences and they know what they are really looking for and what they really want. Okay, catch us on the next episode where we are going to talk about having a better relationship with your teen.
Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Teens with Cheree Murdock and Abbi Winslow. If you are looking for more tips to help your teenager, here's where you can find us. You can find Cheree Murdock on Instagram at Cheree Murdock Coaching or on her website, ChereeMurdock.com. You can find me, Abbi, on Instagram as Abbi Winslow or on my website, AbbiWinslow.com. Please rate and review our podcast and share with a fellow parent. Thanks for listening.